If you were President of the United States, the question is, what would you do with former President Bill Clinton?
Well, the ideal job for President Clinton would be Secretary General of the United Nations, but that's probably not doable. What I would do is, President Clinton gave me, although I don't think he's very happy with me now, President Clinton gave me two great jobs. He gave me Ambassador to the United Nations, Secretary of Energy. I believe he is needed in the Middle East. This administration has not had a Middle East peace envoy as other bipartisan administrations have had. We have serious problems in the Middle East. Our great ally, Israel, which I think needs buttressing, right now is less safe than it was when President Bush came in. We need a constant Middle East peace process. President Clinton gave me two good jobs. I want to pay him back and make him Middle East peace envoy.
What about you, Senator Obama? Arguably, Bill Clinton might be the most popular Democrat out there among Democrats. If you were elected president, what would you have him do?
Well, I think both answers reflect one of the former president's enormous strengths, and that was his capacity to build alliances and relationships around the world. And I have no doubt that Hillary played an enormous role in helping that happen. But what we've seen over the last 6 years is the effort to replace bluster and belligerence and saber rattling for solid diplomacy and strategy and foresight. And one of the things that we're going to have to do is to return to that recognition that we can't simply lead with our military. The strength of our military has to be matched with the power of our diplomacy, the strength of our alliances. That's how we are going to deal with the crisis in the Middle East. That's how we're going to end a genocide in Darfur. And I think that President Clinton's vision of our interdependence globally is something. Now, obviously, Senator Clinton may have something to say about how I use Bill Clinton. So, in fairness, she should be able to respond.
Let her tell us, if you were president, Senator Clinton, what would your husband do?
This is a fascinating question. They asked the Republicans, they asked the Democrats, and I think from the perspective of what you've already heard, I believe in using former presidents. I think we should have everybody helping us to repair the damage of the last, by then, 8 years. And when I become president, Bill Clinton, my dear husband, will be one of the people who will be sent around the world as a roving ambassador to make it very clear to the rest of the world that we're back to a policy of reaching out and working and trying to make friends and allies and stopping the alienation of the rest of the world. There's not a problem we face, from global terrorism to global warming or HIV/AIDS or bird flu or tuberculosis, where we don't need friends and allies. And he would be a tremendous help in our country's effort to redo that again.
Thank you, Senator. Let's go back to Scott for another question.
Thanks, Wolf. Senator Dodd, gas prices are at record high levels. Granted, staters are frustrated. Americans are frustrated. What would you do to reduce gas prices?
Well, this is a major crisis issue, obviously. Energy-related problems, obviously, are problems with global warming, the dependency on the Middle East for so much of our energy supplies. It's a national security issue. It's a health care issue. The problems are profound here and require some very strong answers. I also think this issue provides incredible opportunities for us to grapple with and deal with here, if we have the kind of strong leadership in the country. I believe we can make a difference here on reducing our dependency on those sources of energy while simultaneously rolling back the problems of global warming. Today we have the solar polar caps rather melting. We have greenhouse gases that are accumulating at record levels way beyond expectations. We really have the dual responsibility here of reducing the polluting effects of depending upon fossil fuels and also allowing us to develop the alternative technologies that would allow us to move beyond this issue. I've introduced a plan here that would require, by the year 2017, 50 miles per gallon standard for our automobiles. I believe that can be done. Well, we ought to do it immediately, in my view, and a carbon tax, in my view, so that you would make these polluting dependencies to polluting fuels more expensive and encourage them through the use of revenues collected to move aggressively on developing the alternative technologies of solar and wind and other sources of energy we could use.
Thank you, Senator. But the question is, what would you do right now to reduce the price of gasoline?
Well, what we've offered already, in fact, and that is, of course, we ought to be saying here that when the price of a barrel of oil gets beyond $40 a barrel, when there's plenty of profit here, that those dollars ought to be returned to the consumers in a rebate or plowed back into the research that would allow us to develop alternative technologies. But the real way to get away from this here, our dependency on that kind of fuel is causing us serious problems across the board. So it isn't just a price of fuel issue here. It's also depending upon polluting technologies that are going to cost us so much.
Senator Gravel?
Yeah, well, I join him on the carbon tax, and of course that will raise the price of gasoline. Let's be candid about that. There's nothing I would do as president to lower the price of gasoline right now. We Americans have to grow up. If we want to get off of the dependency in the Middle East, we have to own up to the problem. These things cost money. They're controlling our society. And the sooner we stop fighting these wars, here, stop and think. You only see $3. Just watch those wheels turn. There's another $4, which is what we spend to keep American troops around the world to keep the price. So you're paying more than $7 a gallon. You just don't know it.
Senator Edwards?
Oh, well, the first thing we've got to do is find out what's happening with these oil and gas companies, because we know they're making record amounts of money. We know that the same people that are refining the oil are selling it at the gas pump. So there's a huge vertical integration in this operation.